Hey guys, welcome to Grixis Dragons. This is pretty sweet deck. We're seeing a lot of decks built in the Grixis colors in standard now, and that's because of Nicol Bolas, the Ravager. The card is just unbelievably good. As a 4-mana flyer that makes your opponent discard a card, and as a 4/4, it's already great. On occasion, yes, you can flip it and just win the game. But yeah, so the fact that it can transform into a planeswalker is basically just a bonus. And it's the reason why a deck that is otherwise kind of similar to red black or even mono red aggro might want to play this dragon. And then once you decide to play Nicol Bolas, then we can kind of start this whole dragon theme. And this deck is very synergistic with dragons, and we'll kind of get into that. The mana base is going to be worse than your mono red or red black decks. That's just inevitable, right? You have to make some sacrifice to get the blue cards in. So you'll see some of these come into play taps, some of these cycling lands, but we are able to still be red based, which means being able to play 4 copies of Goblin Chainwhirler, which is still a format warping card. We're seeing less and less 1 toughness creatures, even though 1 toughness creatures are very powerful. The fact that they die to Chainwhirler is still a major issue. Magma Spray is probably at its best that it's ever been, with decks like Godfarer's Gifts and all of these red decks playing Scrapheap Scrounger. Spray is one of the best tools in the early game, and then Abrade. Abrade is just great for artifacts, for creatures. We've got our own Scroungers. Sure, but where you really get into the power of the dragons is when you get to Sark and Fireblood, right? This guy can start allowing you to play these dragons as early as turn 4. You can start looting away with this card. So it's actually a really special planeswalker. We don't see a ton of 3-mana planeswalkers anymore, and it specifically synergizes with dragons. You have to be a dragons deck. So we've got the 4 Nicol Bolases. We've, of course, got 4 Glorybringer. Glorybringer is just awesome, regardless of whether you have a bunch of dragons in your deck or not. And then we also have Demanding Dragon, which is just huge and is a great way to finish off games. And this is kind of the whole dragon synergy part of the deck. We've got a Banefire in there as well for a little bit more closing speed. And yeah, the sideboard has some blue cards. Because we're playing the Nicol Bolas, we do get access to some counter magic, duress. So these cards help shore up those control matchups. And then we've got a bunch of cards for your creature decks, your red aggressive decks, and so on. Spit Flame is another specifically dragon-oriented card because you can start getting it back from the graveyard. So you use it, you kill a Steel Leaf champion or what have you, then you play a dragon, you get it back. It can get pretty crazy. So yeah, the deck is really cool and it's fun. So it's something that I recommend, and make sure to check out these matches I'm about to show you, because we may have planeswalkers going ultimate, Nicol Bolas transforming. We've got it all, so make sure to stick around and let's showcase this deck. Okay, we are going to get to go first, and going to keep Scroungers at its best on the play. So the fact that we have 2 of them and we can start casting them on turn 2 is pretty nice. There's a Dread Wanderer, so it does look like we're up against zombies. So this could just be a straight up race. We're hoping our opponent doesn't, say, play 2 more 1-drops this turn, because then we would be behind. But if our opponent just plays a single creature or a single removal spell, I think we can keep pace with that. Okay, passing the turn, we accept those terms. Drew a land, which we needed. So pretty decent start so far to this game. Our opponent's taking it. We're happy about that. We could leave up for Abrade, but I like just getting another Scrounger into play. Next turn we can use. Probably our opponent will play a Lord of some sort, and we can kill that in one way or another. This is going to prompt a Fatal Push from our opponent, and Lord of the Accursed comes down kind of as expected. There's an Abrade. We're certainly going to use that. Don't think there's much of a reason to wait. Don't think our opponent would block our Scrapheap Scrounger, but just going to attack with it. Death Baron is good. Now, we're hoping to fade Liliana's Mastery. And we're also, okay, so we did draw Sulfur Falls. A couple options here, but I like getting the Chandra into play because it's a problematic permanent, and we can use it for mana here to then Abrade away this Death Baron. So we're getting the Baron off the board, and we're getting Chandra, Torch of Defiance into play. So the Nicol Bolas would be good, but I think we can find a better spot for it. Normally, if I can play Chandra and it's not immediately going to die, I just want to get it into play. But our opponent has the Liliana's Mastery, so things are getting really interesting. Deciding to attack Chandra there. So we did draw an Abrade for turn. So I think I like playing Nicol Bolas and abrading away a zombie. But first, let's go ahead and attack with the Scrounger to see what our opponent does. Okay, they're just going to take the damage. Well, we'll make our opponent discard a card before giving them a heads up that this Abrade is coming. Okay, they did just discard a swamp. We want to get rid of the token rather than the Dread Wanderer, since the Dread Wanderer can come back. And so if we can keep Nicol Bolas and Chandra around, we could potentially flip Nicol Bolas, but that does not seem likely. So our opponent is centering both of these zombies at Chandra. So we could block Dread Wanderer with Nicol Bolas. I think I'm just going to take it, though. This way, if we draw draw a land for Glorybringer, which we just did, we potentially just have lethal here, unless our opponent has a Fatal Push as their last card. Okay, sweet. So that worked out in our favor. And moving towards the sideboard. So we do have some additional removal spells we can bring in. The Sweltering Suns are really good in this matchup. You can tell that most of the creatures are actually 3 toughness, and then Spit the Flame is also pretty good just as another removal spell that works well with our dragons. Gonna take out the Banefire here. I think we take out Banefire because these removal spells are better than it in the matchup. Chandra on the draw is not quite as great. And then I'm going to take out 2 copies of Pia. Pia is going to get outclassed a lot of the time by the zombies, and it doesn't work that well with their Sweltering Suns ideas. So, yep, this is going to be the sideboard plan. Only 1 land in the opener. We do have 2 Sweltering Suns, which we would love alongside of lands. I remember back to the days when we had Aetherworks Marvel in Standard, and Sweltering Suns was one of the best sideboard cards in the Marvel versus Zombies matchup. Unfortunate here to have to mull all the way down to 5. Mountain on top. I guess I'm going to keep that. We're looking for both lands and action, just being as it's a multi-5. We do have these Abrades, though, which can potentially buy us a little bit of time, maybe help us stick the Sarkhan and let it go to work. Okay, so our plan is going to be to play the Abrade on whenever our opponent plays, then play out Sarkhan. So it happens to be a Lord of the Curse. Let's get rid of that for sure. The Lords are the best targets for spot removal. So here's an interesting decision. What do we pitch with this Sarkhan? I think I'm going to get rid of the Sulfur Falls, because we can use mana from Sarkhan to play Demanding Dragon. Could be completely wrong, but just because we drew Spit the Flame, we might want more mana for that. But okay, here's a Liliana Untouched by Death. So that's gonna start some draining. So we have the Spit the Flame, but pretty easy. We're just gonna play Demanding Dragon. Might as well just make 2 red. And so we have plenty of removal now in our hand. And the dragon, it can unfortunately redirect the damage to Liliana, which would be really nice, but we still get this nice 5/5 creature on the battlefield. Hopefully our opponent doesn't have a removal spell for it, like a Vraska's Contempt. They've got a Lord and a Dread Wanderer, so still looking to stock up that graveyard with zombies. Dread Wanderer, we can live with that play. Wow, so we actually have a decent amount of options. I'm going to start with an attack headed directly at that Liliana. Try to get that down to 1 loyalty. Okay, so that worked out. And we've got a lot of removal, as it turns out. So we are going to discard. Question is which one we want to discard. Not too sure, honestly. I think it's either Spit the Flame or an Abrade. I'm going to go ahead and pitch Abrade there and just pass the turn. we can use a removal spell to get rid of the Death Baron. Although I guess maybe we should have done that on our turn. Although I guess, no, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go for... We actually have the Sweltering Suns. We could greedily take this hit, but I think there's a chance that we get to ultimate Sarkhan. I'm going to use the Spit the Flame. We want to keep our Sarkhan at a healthy loyalty. And by using the Spit the Flame, we can potentially return it. If we want to go draw a land, play Glorybringer, get back the Spit the Flame, that is an option that is available to us. Chainwhirler, okay. Well, we may still want to just jam Glorybringer, honestly. It seems pretty hard for that to go wrong, so I'm just going to go for it. Like, there's... I guess our opponent could have a cast down, but there's not too many removal spells that can get it off the board, and then if we're able to... Yeah, we don't have the mana for the Spit the Flame to get that back. Alright, so we're gonna send the Glorybringer at the Liliana and Exert. And this should just be an amazing turn for us. Because it seems like our opponent doesn't have anything right here. Which means we Liliana down. Sarkhan can actually just go ahead and ultimate next turn, which creates 4 5/5 dragons. So that seems pretty good. Don't see how our opponent's really beating that without some sort of a sweeper. Seems too good to pass up making making four red dragons with flying. Oh, and by the way, we can return the Spit the Flame as well. This is pretty disgusting. And yeah, at this point the Graveyard Marshal is not really... We don't really care about that. We could take it out with an Abrade. Don't really see much of a point in doing that, since our opponent needs specifically like Bantu's Last Reckoning to have a chance here, so just going to pass the turn. And let these dragons take us home. Sarkhan really putting in overtime. Hour of Glory takes out one of our 6 dragons. So, okay, Fatal Push takes out another one, but that's just not going to... Okay, Fatal Push takes out another one. We still have lethal, despite our opponent killing 3 of our dragons here. So this should just be the match. So yeah, this one we're on the draw. Gonna mulligan the hand into a much better hand where we actually have lands. Two lands only though, so we're still looking for more. And our opponent did keep 7. I think we just bottomed the Abrade. We don't know what we're up against, so we don't really know how great Abrade is going to be. We already have one early piece of interaction in the Magma Spray, and we really do need to hit our 3rd land drop. So I think that's my reasoning for putting that Abrade on the bottom. Rootbound Crag, so that could mean like a green-red mid-range deck. Luckily, nothing too punishing so far. I'm going to play out the Scrounger. Our opponent could have a Magma Spray for it, but just seems too good of an opportunity not to get it onto the battlefield. This is pretty slow moving so far. Drover of the Mighty. Okay. Well, that actually dies to Goblin Chainwhirler. So before our opponent can get any dinosaurs, let's just go ahead and Chainwhirler that thing. It's going to get rid of it. And that seems good for the home team. And our hand is just stacked at the moment. Hard to imagine what our opponent's going to play that we're too worried about. Okay, Steel Leaf Champion, yeah, not worried about that one. We can Chandra tick down and get rid of it. That seems quite good. And that's our black mana in case we do need it, but unlikely that we're going to. Because now we're just so far ahead. Our opponent is stumbling, just has an awkward draw. And bang, down to 10. And we get to keep our Chandra in play. Maybe hard to know. I mean, we expect this to be a version of Mono Green based on the Steel Leaf Champion. Hard to know exactly what our opponent's up to. We may never know. So I'm going to get a land down before ticking up the Chandra just to see if we hit something. Well, I was about to say hit something like a Glorybringer. And there, yep, that is, yep, that's going to be game one. Alright, well, that was fairly straightforward. Our opponent just kind of got run over by our draw. So, in terms of sideboarding, I like Spit Flame quite a bit. It does deal with Steel Leaf Champion. It deals with all the cards we saw our opponent cast that game. So we are going to bring that one in. And the better question is, what do we take out? I don't think we need Sweltering Suns, or we could actually, if we think our opponent's on Ghalta, Angrath is quite good against Ghalta. You can just use it as a threaten effect and just kill the opponent. So I'm going to bring in the Angrath. In terms of cards to take out, that's a different question entirely. Go ahead and take out Pia. And I guess I'm going to take out one Demanding Dragon. Maybe we can take out one Sarkhan, although I guess we don't need to cut anything more. The Banefire is also another potential cut. Yeah, it's kind of a weird one of Banefire. Feels like it's gets cut in a decent amount of matchups. Not against decks like Blue-White Control, but alright, so I'm just gonna keep the Dragon package in. We'll get a little bit greedy. Keep the Sarkhans in. Keep the Demanding Dragons in. We're on the draw again. Pretty nice hand. We have the Magma Spray. We don't know how many creatures in our opponent's deck actually die to Magma Spray. We're just hoping that, you know, it's kind of a necessary play if our opponent has a pretty decent aggressive start. It's one of those cards that you really want to have. Like here, our opponent plays that Drover the Mighty, we might have to Magma Spray it. It's kind of a gamble, right? If we don't Magma Spray it, we can potentially just Chainwhirl it away. Alright, I'm going to gamble. We're playing Scrapheap Scrounger. We're hoping that this works out. But even if it doesn't, say our opponent plays a dinosaur, we have multiple removal spells still, so we're getting a 3-power creature into play. Seems like the correct play to me. And if our opponent's attacking with Drover, that's probably very good news. Probably means that our opponent does not have a dinosaur. And there's Steel Leaf Champion. Well, I'm gonna offer up the quote unquote. Well, I'm gonna allow our opponent to misplay here if they want to block the Scrapheap Scrounger and get blown out by a Chainwhirler, but they're not having any of it. I think we still play Chainwhirler though. We get the Drover, and we deprive our opponent of that mana, which could be pretty important. It does mean we're taking a hit here of 5. Hopefully that's a trade-off we're willing to make rather. Okay, so now we're kind of forced to get rid of the Steel Leaf and hope that, well, we can also attack first and play a Chainwhirler to try to clean it up. So I think I like attacking with both and then playing Chainwhirler. If our opponent doesn't block, then we Spit the Flame it. Spit Flame. No blocks. I think we save the Unlicensed. So yeah, I'm just going to go with a Spit Flame. Okay. So no Blossoming Defense. That is quite good news. Could have played Unlicensed Disintegration there, but if our opponent has the Blossoming Defense, we just get totally punished. And this is a reason to keep the Unlicensed Disintegration. There is Gigantosaurus, just a huge dork. A 10/10 to be exact. But we get to just go point, click, bang, get rid of it. And then attack our opponent down to 1. So assuming we don't die from something like maybe a Glorybringer from our opponent, assuming we get to untap, we should just be able to win with one of these Goblin Chainwhirlers. So I think it's right to attack, force our opponent to have something to kill us. And it appears that they do not have something to kill us. So I'm just going to play the Chainwhirler. I suspect that is going to do it. And it does. So yeah, on the draw, 5 lands. That's a lot of lands, but we do keep Canyon Sluice Cycles. Have a couple of beaters. Kind of a disguised hand because it looks like we are just like a standard red-black aggro deck with this hand. Which is pretty far from what we are capable of doing with our dragon package incorporated in the deck. So it looks like we are playing against a red aggro deck. Could be mono red. And alright. So we're just kind of hoping our opponent doesn't have like a Scrounger to follow this Soulscar Mage up. Or a Karizev. Karizev would be pretty bad, but it looks like it's going to be a pass. Okay. Well, we'll get our Scrounger onto the board. Not really anything else we're going to do. Certainly not thinking about cycling when we have a decent play to make. It does get shocked down. This could also be the mono red Wizards deck that has Wizards Lightning, as well as it makes good use of the Wizard red creatures. There's On-Crop Crasher. So, yep, our opponent's getting very aggressive. And this is where we just pray for no Hazoret, because we cannot really beat a Hazoret if our opponent plays a Hazoret, which is not a great spot to be praying for no Hazoret against a red deck. But I think we just stay home and use this Unlicensed Disintegration to try to take out the... Oh, wow. Skizik was one I was completely not expecting. And it's not with Kicker. So that is... Yeah, that's a change of pace to see that Skizik. But it is going to bring us all the way down to 9. Although the Skizik does now hit the graveyard, which is good. So I think we want to get the Chandra into play. Probably just tick up an Abrade. That way, if our opponent has a Chainwhirler, they can't get rid of the Chandra. Maybe they have another Skizik. That could be brutal if our opponent just goes land Skizik here, or something. I don't know what's happening. It's just another Skizik. I'm not prepared for this. The Skizik beatdown has commenced. Now is our opponent attacking Chandra or just bringing us down to 4? It looks like they're taking us to 4. That is very scary. Very scary indeed. Well, we're going to tick up and look at our card. Looks like it was a land. I think I like just playing the Chainwhirler. This protects against a third Skizik, at the very least. And then we can cycle the Canyon Slough. Oh, here's a Lightning Strike. That puts us to 1. Don't do it. Don't have it. This feels bad. Flame of Keld. Okay. That makes sense. That does make sense. That our opponent would be playing that card. I was thinking we might just die there. So first mode, discard your hand. Second mode is draw 2 cards. If any of those cards our opponent draws are burn spells, we certainly lose. Well, here's a Nicol Bolas. Do we want to cast that or just cast the Glorybringer from our hand? That's the question. I think I'm just going to go Glorybringer. Get the Glorybringer down. I think we should leave one creature back, and I think it's the Chainwhirler. We are hoping for no On-Crop Crasher if we make this play. We could play around a Crasher if we leave both of our creatures back. I guess that makes some sense. Alright, I'm just going to pass. Hope for no actual burn spell here, so that we can untap and then potentially ultimate Chandra. Land... What you got? Earthshaker Kenra? That is not going to do it. Is there something else? Yes, there is. Of course. Of course, there's also a Lightning Strike. Well, we took a lot of damage from those early Skizik hits, that's for sure. So we know we're up against Flame of Keld aggro. That's what we're aiming to beat. We're boarding in these Chandra's defeats, absolutely, for sure. They should be great in the matchup. And Unlicensed Disintegration, it's weird to say it, but it's kind of slow. It's kind of slow. Yeah, we'll just board out some of our slower removal for some of our cheaper removal. We're still keeping in our dragons. We want to be able to cast them. We were one turn away from winning, but it was essentially, yeah, it was a bunch of draws because of that Flame of Kaladin. Our opponent definitely had a shot at that lightning strike that they did find. Well, I think this is a fine hand. Sarkhan has a lot of potential. If we're able to get it down and do some work with it, meaning we're able to untap with it on turn 4, abrade something, play Sarkhan. It's basically the plan. A little bit of a decision as to how we sequence this. But I think since we drew the Magma... Well, we kind of want to... I think I'm just going to abrade this because Spray deals with Earthshaker Kenra better. Although I guess if our opponent plays Karizev, then we would rather have the abrade. So we saw Kenra. I'm assuming our opponent has 4 Earthshakers. Okay, they're just passing. Okay, so that's fine. Perfectly fine. And this loot is very valuable with this Sarkhan. So we are certainly going to be electing to discard that Sulfur Falls. Already have enough lands in this one. Our opponent may have an on-crop Crasher, would not be surprised to see one. And speak of the devil, there it is. So we'll see if our opponent this time wants to just, okay, saying they could just start going face, face, face and trying to kill us that way. But it looks like that's not the plan. So I think we want to make mana. We want to make mana here. And this allows us to play Nicol Bolas and hold up the Magma Spray, which seems pretty solid. Or even cycle the Canyon Slough if we, for some reason, get to that stage. Okay, there's a Chainwhirler. So that takes Sarkhan all the way down to 1. Yeah, we're just going to Magma Spray away the Crasher. Alright, so do believe we want to loot. Maybe we loot away the Scrapheap Scrounger. Or we could cycle Canyon Slough first. Yeah, I kind of like cycling the Canyon Slough first to see what we draw. Because if we do draw a dragon, we could just put that into play. We drew Pia. So I think I like, yeah, putting the Scrounger into the graveyard. And now we have the choice of whether to hold back Nicol Bolas, but I don't think we want to do that. We can play out Pia. And potentially just throw Thopter in front of the Chainwhirler, depending on what our opponent does. Could be another Chainwhirler. Looks like it's going to be something even bigger. It's Glorybringer. So the race is kind of on now. We'll see if this Glorybringer gets exerted or not. I'd be kind of surprised, yeah, if the Glorybringer was not exerted. So, yep, that all happens. Sarkin down. So we found a Chainwhirler. Might as well play it. We can actually try to race. And I think we're ahead in this race as of right now. We have a Scrounger in the graveyard. So we're certainly looking to get another creature in the graveyard as well. We're also looking to try to flip Nicol Bolas. Ooh, that's tricky. That Magma Spray actually exiles our Chainwhirler. Because Chainwhirler plus Spray, yep, that works. Ugh. That was not the draw we wanted. Well, this is interesting. We really want to be able to flip Nicol Bolas. We could leave it on defense. Or we can just get in and hope for the best. Our opponent's only got one card in hand. Yeah. We're just going to attack. I think we're ahead in the race, but we don't know what our opponent's got. Alright, they block Pia. We're just going to play our other Pia. And so now our opponent really needs multiple spells or another Glorybringer, I guess. There's a Soul Scar. They're attacking with 2 creatures. Okay. So that means we're not going to die immediately. We're going to take this hit of 7. And bring back our Scrapheap Scrounger. Magma Spray is pretty good. Possibly. Depends what our opponent's got. If they have a spell... Well, I guess we're going to see. We're going to Magma Spray the Soul Scar. That works. Well, since that worked, then it appears we just have a lethal attack. Okay. That was a close game, but we did force the 3rd game, so that's nice. Now on the draw, I'm not sure about these planeswalkers. They may just actually be too slow. Like we may have to like our opponent's deck is so aggressive that I think our best plan is to play a little bit of a slower game with them. Maybe take out all of these, not sure. Scrounger is okay. Certainly nothing great in the matchup. Spit Flame and a License Disintegration, both reasonable. It's weird. It's a weird sideboarding decisions for sure. Those Skizzics were or what were pretty scary. I think we still keep in the Sarkans though. Sure, we'll try this configuration. Sarkhan just feels too good, too important to what the deck's trying to do to ever really cut all of them. And we're only playing 2, so our opponent did mulligan, so that is decent. Although kept their 6, no 1-drop though, so means we have a little bit of breathing room. Have this Canyon Slough. I'm gonna play the Spirebluff Canal. We might end up cycling the Slough. It really just depends what mix of lands and spells we draw from here as to what we're going to do with that one. We have the Chandra's Defeat. We optimally would like to save it for something juicy to be able to use it on. We're still pretty scared of Hazoret. Hazoret is one of those cards that can still just get you. Unknown how many copies our opponent actually plays, though, considering they're on the Flame of Keld version of this deck, but certainly one of the scariest cards that any red deck can have in these sorts of mirror type matchups. Alright, there's the missed land drop, so that can happen when you're playing these low land count decks, like the one our opponent is. And I think we're now willing to cycle the Canyon Slough because we already have 5 other lands. And once you get to 5 lands, you pretty much don't need any more unless you're trying to transform the Bolas into a planeswalker, which something that could come up, but and it looks like Bolases are coming. We don't mind losing the first one because we got a backup. And this is going to start punishing our opponent's mulligan by forcing some of those cards to disappear from our opponent's hand. So it is a real question of whether we want to make this block if our opponent attacks, which they are attacking. Likely our opponent plays a removal spell and kills the Bolas. I think we're okay with that. I'm going to just go ahead and block. I wouldn't make that play if we didn't have the second one, but we do have the second one. Seems okay. We also have that Scrounger in the graveyard. Ooh, there is a third land. So a few different options here. If we play Glorybringer, we would hate to see it get Chandra's defeated. That's for sure. I actually like playing the Pia the most. As weird as that is, it allows us to make what I consider to be a pretty safe play. Our opponent could have Chainwhirler to get rid of the Thopter. That's fine. It does put a counter on our Pia. Alright. Maybe that play was bad, but I wanted to be able to get the Scrounger back. In retrospect, kind of wish I hadn't made it, but this now allows us to freely play the Glorybringer, and I think we're in still amazing shape. Basically, if we play Glorybringer last turn and it gets Chandra's defeated, that's why I made this play. Could have played Bolas, but then we're not using our mana as efficiently, so We get the PM play, we safely get the Glorybringer on the table, we get the Scrounger back from our graveyard. Seems to be working out alright. Chandra. We're not worried about that. Not really. We'll see what our opponent elects to do with it. Just going to get rid of the Glorybringer. That's fine. So I think we just play the Bolas to make our opponent discard a card. And it's a Crasher. Then we take care of this Soulscar Mage. And the Chandra. And don't see how our opponent makes it back from this position. They did have Hazoret, but it's way, way too late. Way too late for Hazoret. So we actually have the ability to transform Nicol Bolas. I believe we can just do that. So I'm going to get him for 4. Let's go ahead and flip it. So now we have 7 loyalty on our Nicol Bolas. And we can bring back Chandra from our opponent's graveyard. And then deal that last 2 damage. That was a pretty cool way to actually win that one. Okay, so it looks like we did win this particular die roll. We have a keepable hand. No threat to play until turn 4 as of right now, so that's a little bit slow. But we do have the Magma Spray to hopefully protect our life total. Soulscar Mage on turn 1 for our opponent. So we have, okay, well, we actually drew a Scrapheap Scrounger. So I think we want to just get that onto the battlefield. If we hadn't drawn the Scrounger, it would have been an interesting decision there. What we would want to do. If we wanted to Magma Spray the Soulscar Mage or wait for something better, but now we can just get our creature into play. Heart of Karen for our opponent, that's pretty scary because we don't have a way of getting that card off the battlefield right now. And that's frustrating. We would love the Sulfur Falls to come into play untapped so we could potentially play Sarkhan. Unfortunately, it does not, so we're just going to get in with our Scrounger, pass back. Hope that our opponent doesn't punish us, although it's pretty likely they might have a Scrounger of their own, perhaps. Yep, so that Scrounger is what our opponent was looking for, because that is a way to crew the Heart of Karen. And now we are behind in this race. We're taking a hit for 5. I'm going to go ahead and use this Magma Spray on the Scrounger, get that guy out of here. But we can drop Sarkhan. Unclear if that's the play we... I think if we draw a land, we kind of want to play Nicol Bolas. But we didn't draw a land. So if we play Sarkhan, we're kind of hoping our opponent doesn't have a way to crew Heart of Karen, which is pretty optimistic. But we're gonna get it in there. here. And we do get to loot. I think we just pitch this Chainwhirler. Our opponent hasn't played any 1 toughness creatures. A lot of red decks some of them are actually moving away from the Earthshaker Kenras and Beaumont Couriers because of Goblin Chainwhirler. And yeah, Chandra, that's what our opponent needs here. And making mana. Okay, so this is interesting. Our opponent is playing a black-red deck, but they do have the Earthshaker Kenras. They can crew the heart. So we're taking a big chunk. Now I kind of wish that we had that Chainwhirler back almost. Hard to know that this was the exact sequence, though, that our opponent would go to. And not much we can do here, unfortunately. I'm going to send the Scrounger at the Chandra. Just kind of see what our opponent does. They could crew this Heart of Kiran or just let the Chandra take 3 damage. So it looks like our opponent is going to crew the heart. And unfortunately, I think we're just too far behind. We can't really make anything happen here. So I'm not one for making our opponent wait. We'll just concede there. Go to the sideboard where we get these 3 Chandra's defeats, which are going to be excellent. In this matchup, we saw mostly only red cards and a scrap, and then the artifacts as well. Duress is, we certainly don't want these blue counter spells. Spit the Flame is an interesting removal option. Although, not sure we need it in this matchup. Just because the late game should favor us. Like, if we had gotten to cast our dragons in that game, I think things would have gone a lot better. Sweltering Suns is another interesting card, but I think the Chandra's defeats are the main one we want. I think we can take out the Banefire. Gonna keep in the dragon package along with the Sarkans. Gonna go ahead and shave a Chandra, shave a Scrounger. I think going down on Scroungers is okay. So we're really looking for early removal to stop what our opponent's putting on the table on the first turn or two, and then hopefully maybe we'll hit our 3rd land drop on time. This is part of the vulnerability to playing a Grixis deck, though. Hands like this, where it looks like it's a mono red deck, and then all of a sudden you see that Nicol Bolas hanging out there without any blue or black mana. Which is this is kind of the opposite to our mana situation in the first game. So we have the removal. So we can use the Magma Spray here. Come on, 3rd land. Coming off the top, and yep, okay. We're in business. we found that we can safely deploy a Chainwhirler. We have a backup in case we need it. Maybe our opponent... Okay, our opponent's going with Pia. Well, we can get rid of the Thopter with our Chainwhirler. So that's pretty nice. Still missing a blue mana up to this point. But I think we're ahead. And if we draw lands, we should be able to close things out with these dragons. If we don't draw lands, we're opening the door for our opponent. We have this Chandra's Defeat, which is one of the best removal spells you can possibly have against a base red deck. Rekindling Phoenix is good. It's going to make it tougher on us. But we can still actually attack with these Chainwhirlers, force our opponent to make a decision on how or if they're going to block. Because if they block a Chainwhirler... Okay, so they're not. They're chumping. They're chumping a Chainwhirler. Interesting. Worried about the Rekindling Phoenix dying, but we can safely just play out Pia Nalar. And interestingly, we haven't actually... We're ahead without needing our big fatties, our dragons, our late game. So kind of a peculiar situation. And our opponent now feels the need to stay home on defense. Well, this is a tricky situation. We could use the Thopter to prevent the Phoenix from being able to block. Our opponent likely has some amount of removal here. I think the safest play is just going to be attacking with the Goblin Chainwhirlers, because they just eat the Phoenix, and our opponent's going to use any removal that they have now on these Chainwhirlers. There's an Abrade. We'll see if there's also another removal coming. And indeed, there's a Chandra's Defeat. So we really didn't have great attacks because our opponent had 2 removal spells. If we attack with either of these, our opponent's going to put the Phoenix on them, and that doesn't work out well for us. So here's Earthshaker Kenra. So our opponent may... Okay, there's 2 Kenras. So this is going to be a decent-sized attack from our opponent, getting in for 4 damage. And once again, we're pushed into a situation where we have a lot of good draws, but Glorybringer was not one of them. So we're just going to pass. And a little bit frustrating to have this particular hand in this spot. It does happen, of course. It's one of those things. So one play we can make would be to block the Phoenix with our Thopter and pump it to try to trade with the Phoenix. Yeah, I kind of like this block. Not sure if it's going to work out well for us. We'll see. But we can make the Thopter into a 3-power creature. And then if our opponent puts the egg token in play, we can finish off potentially the egg if we want to. So This could prompt a removal spell from our opponent. Okay, yeah, it does prompt an unlicensed disintegration there. And just a pass, so that means our opponent, wow. Ooh, that hurts. That's rough. Just the third 5-mana dragon off the top of our library. Well, this was not how we drew it up per se, but sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. I think we just Chandra's Defeat away this Phoenix and hope to be able to get rid of this elemental. Harvester, okay. So we drew Chandra. I guess we'll cast Chandra. And we can get rid of the elemental. That's gonna stop the Phoenix from coming back. Our opponent will be able to get rid of our Chandra fairly easily. If we had had Sarkhan in this game, ooh, that would have been great. We could have done some crazy things with Sarkhan. Alright, so the Scrounger is going to crew up the Harvester. And then they can send a creature at the Chandra. Probably take 3 from the Harvester would be my guess how this all plays out. And, yep. Unlicensed Disintegration. Well, not exactly what we were looking for, but we can just pass the turn. Hope to maybe get the Harvester with it. There's a Chainwhirler. It's another problematic card. So we get rid of the Harvester. We're still taking 5, though. Not sure that we can come back from this, honestly. And yeah, that Canyon Slough really does add insult to injury. Comes into play tapped. We could cycle it, but we're not really drawing to anything, so just going to go ahead and concede this one. Looks like we will be kicking things off. Scavenging Around's a little bit awkward in this hand. A little bit mana light on the play. I'm just gonna mulligan it. This seems better. We actually don't have a mountain, which means some of these lands might come into play tapped. We'll keep the Chainwhirler on top. Could be good. Really just depends. Actually, that was just a complete mistake. I meant to click on a Sulphur Falls and then I clicked on Spire Bluff Canal. should have played Sulphur Falls there. So, well, hopefully that doesn't fully punish me. It's one of those Magic Online things. Would never really do it in a tournament, but sometimes I know everyone's kind of been through it. If we draw a mountain, it ends up not really mattering. We can just play mountain, play Chainwhirler, and be off to the races. See what our opponent's got. Blue-white, Knight of Grace. Okay. Alright, well, that's fine. We can actually just use Abrade here. I think we just do that. We're going to Abrade the Knight. Straightforward there. And just pass the turn. So there's a Militia Bugler. Okay, so that means that our opponent's got some interesting, potentially Knight shenanigans. Obviously 2-power creature stuff going on. But it looks like there was a brick there off the Bugler. So our opponent did not find anything. Well, we're gonna play our Chainwhirler. It's the only card we can play, so we're gonna play it. And pass. Hopefully we get this Chandra or Glorybringer down and can do some serious work with one of those cards. I'm expecting another creature. We would assume... Okay, yep, there's a Mentor of the Meek. There's clearly some synergy in this deck. That's for sure. So we found a land. The question is, we want to get rid of the Mentor. How do we do it? I think we play Glorybringer and Exert. Seems good. Could also see playing Chandra. But either way, seems solid. We're getting in for a nice chunk. Next turn, we get Chandra onto the board. We can take out, if our opponent plays another 4-power creature, 4-toughness creature, we can take it out with Chandra. Or just get rid of the Bugler, potentially. Oh, here's a Trophy Mage. What is this going to find? It's going to be a Ketras Monument. Yep, that makes sense. It is Blue-White Monument that we're up against. And then a Sun Cleanser as well. All right. So what's this one going to do? Not much right now is the answer. Well, we're certainly going to play our Chandra. I think we just want to get rid of this Militia Bugler. We can Magma Spray away the trophy. Actually, we probably should have gotten rid of the Sun Cleanser because we have the, I don't know. We have a good block on we have a good block this turn basically, but it looks like maybe our opponent's not going to attack into the Chandra. Which would be a reason to kill the Bugler, because I think it's the better creature. It's the best creature our opponent had. Not that our opponent has any single great creature. But it looks like the plan for our opponent is to go wide. So we could Magma Spray away something. Do we want to do that is the question. Sure, let's take out a Knight. Why not, right? Take Chandra up, see what we find. Ooh, it is a Bolas. So we are for sure going to cast that. And our opponent happens to only have one card in hand. That's convenient. They discarded a Ketras Monument. Makes sense. So do we exert with our Glorybringer? That is the question. I don't think I'm going to. We have our opponent dead next turn, actually, in the air. So just going to attack for 4. And I don't... Yep. Looks like they didn't find a flyer or a removal spell. So in terms of sideboarding, we definitely want our Abrades. Abrade is great against this deck. Sweltering Suns and Spit the Flame are pretty good. The Chainwhirlers are just decent because they're 3/3s. I'm going to take out Pia. Take out the Banefire. We can actually board in... Do we want Jace's Defeat in this matchup? I mean, we did see blue spells, but I don't know actually how good it is against what our opponent's putting together. I'm also not sure how good Scrounger is, because we saw the 1/4 out of our opponent as well. So I'm going to take out one Scrounger and roll with this configuration. Also, Scrounger gets eaten by Knights. Scrounger, yeah, I mean, it's the only two mana play, so I think we just keep it. We keep 3 of them in because it's just nice to have a play on turn 2. There is some consideration to some of the sideboard options. I don't think we want duress or negate just because our opponent we only saw the Aketra's Monument as non-creature spells. Jace's Defeat again, yeah, I don't know. It's borderline here, I think. We'll try this. And then for game 3, we can always readjust. The blue-white Monument deck is not really a heavily played deck. And certainly we are going to keep this, yeah. So this time, I'm going to remind myself not to play the Spiroglyph Canal first. Alright, don't click on Spiroglyph Canal. Let's do Dragon Skull Summit. We want to save this. Well, we have to play it in the first 3 turns, but we're probably going to play it on turn 2. And there is the Sun Cleanser, which is a good blocker for, and so, okay. So that's a good blocker for Scrapheap Scrounger. But we also have the Chainwhirler in hand, so if our opponent does block, we can then potentially finish off the Sun Cleanser with our Goblin Chainwhirler. So we'll see if that ends up coming up here. There is that Aketra's Monument. Well, I think we just kind of are obliged to make this attack. And it looks like no blocks. Well, that makes the play of abrading pretty straightforward. We can just take out that artifact that allows the blue-white Monument deck to be so good. We're just going, boom, abrade it. And there's a Bugler. Bugler is a good one in this deck for sure. It's kind of fortunate that our opponent did not find something when it was cast in game 1. We'll see if we're as fortunate here, but no, it's a Cloud Blazer. That is a good one. That's a problematic one too. Well, nothing to do about it right now. Kind of wishing we had those Jace's defeats, but we're getting in with the Scrounger. And we can just play this off your false tap since we're Chainwhirlering anyways this turn. Expect to see the Cloud Blazer come down. It's going to draw 2 cards, put our opponent at 18. It's pretty solid play, but still, if we draw a dragon here, dragons could shift things, and there is one. We found one. Sometimes you call for a certain card, and there it is. So I do think we go ahead and exert. I'm going to take out the Cloud Blazer. Just feels safer to have that guy into the graveyard. It looks like our opponent's not interested in trading Bugler for Scrounger, which means taking a 10 damage hit. And this is the advantage to playing 6 5-mana dragons. You're bound to draw one, right? Oh. Ooh. 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 That was brutal. Wow, I wasn't even thinking about that card. Okay, Dusk to Dawn. That was a rough one. Yuck. It's gonna be hard to come back from that. It just wiped our entire board. Makes sense now why our opponent elected not to block with that Bugler. So our opponent does have a Scavenger Grounds. But we can... It's going to be interesting if they just pass the turn here, really. I guess we don't have to bring back Scrounger. So, yep, just going to go ahead and get in with our Scrapheap Scrounger. There's the block. Well, now I think we just go ahead and play Chandra. Chandra, tick it up. Fortunately, cannot cast Glorybringer at the moment. But our opponent's got 4 cards. Kind of wondering what they are. Alright, there's a cast out. That is rough. That is going to answer our Chandra cleanly. And there's a Knight of Grace. So they are okay. So we can respond to this Scavenger Grounds activation. They're gonna get one of our Scroungers, but we still get this Scrounger back. And there's Demanding Dragon. So we might just have this game after all. Even after that Dusted On, which was a huge blowout, we can now simply cast our Demanding Dragon. And that is going to do it.